Hi, my name's Matt, and I run this project at Preston Manor, which involves growing 10 hop plants in the walled garden here. This project goes back to around 2013 when I lived in Queen's Park. I grew one Fuggles hop up the side of my house. We lived in Fiona and I, we shared a bed sit, and because I had a tiny plot of land, I chose a hop because it went up, essentially, and it wasn't impacting out. And so there was too many hops on it for me to use for a little 40 pint project. So I got in touch with the local breweries and said, "Do you want these? Are you interested?" And they were. And so the hops were harvested within a couple of weeks. In the middle of September, they went to Arundel Brewery, which made a unique beer out of them. And then the next year, they were even bigger, and the North Lane Brew House made a beer out of those as well. And then I moved house, so I sadly lost the site, and then I kind of had the craving to do it again. So I started looking for places around the city to expand the project, or redo the project in other ways. So I started thinking more about off-site projects. So it wasn't about where I lived, it was about sites in the city that could be used for this reason. My relationship with this site started in April 2016 when I came here for an open day, and I saw the gardens in this kind of state, and I thought, well, there's possible space here for a project to happen. A different way of looking at working with the museum, different way of museums working with projects and engaging with the city in a different way, and they were well up for that. So April 2016 was when this all started, and then I crowdfunded for hop rhizomes to be bought and for basic equipment. So by January 2017, the following January, the hop rhizomes went in, and then they grew really well for that summer, but they can't really be used because the harvest is not really usable for the first year. So that first year is all about the roots getting bedded in and getting used to the soil. So they went really well, but again, it's like you never know. You've just got to take every month as it comes, really, and not get too excited. And so fast forward to 1 year, we're in September 2018, and we've had a really good harvest. They're in really good condition. There's no signs of any sort of diseases or mildew or anything like that, or wilt or anything like that. So it's looking really good. And next year will be the biggest. It'll be the third year of them, so it'll be their biggest, greatest harvest they'll ever do, possibly. And already started thinking about preparing for then, even though we've got loads of hops to pick and get to the brewer. I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do with the ground. It's kind of occupying me now, but yeah.
Well, I'm George Harris. I'm the garden manager, as they call it. Look after the gardens around the manor. This area isn't used. There are plans to do other things with it, but in the meantime, hops is a pretty good thing to grow here. So, Matt looks after them, so they're pretty well self-maintaining, more or less. Yeah.
You've not had any trouble with the bees so far?
No, they're fine. Caught them on a good morning.
Cool, thanks.
So there's around about 10 different sites around Brighton where we're growing different hop plants and different varieties in different conditions. It's partly a inner city green project, but also part experiment. They're quite hardy plants, so they can take quite a bit of rough ground. And so here was perfect. So I got 10 plants in here, and they're doing really well. There's good reason for the hops that I've chosen here. On the left-hand side of the wall, there was 5 Phoenix hops, and on the right-hand side, 5 Fuggles. And the reason for planting the Phoenix was because they're wilt resistant, and they were created as a wilt resistant strain. And that the only reason for that was for me to have a hop that didn't fail, so that if the Fuggles, something horrible happened to the Fuggles, at least the Phoenix would have more resistance, and I'd have something out of this project here. The Fuggles, that's an old English hop variety, and it has a very English garden, grassy aroma history to it, and I think that's very interesting. There's a few local breweries that are really interested in encouraging the growth of these traditional hops.
Which one have you got there in your hand?
This is a Fuggles. Yeah, this is a Fuggles hop. The reason I'm holding this is because I was going to show you that how it's ready to be harvested. Is it has a slight crunchy sound. It's a bit like, it's described as being a bit like crickets. I'm not sure how that is, but it kind of is. You know, it's kind of cricket sound. And when you squeeze it, it comes back and doesn't retain a kind of wet squash. It kind of comes back crunchy. That's okay. And the oils inside, they've got a good yellow colour to them, and they haven't gone dark orange, which means that they're too old and can't be used, and they're too bitter. But I think you have there's a window with hops. I think there's looking at how the Phoenix matured a little bit early, and then how the Fuggles have matured, and then timing it right and talking to the brewery. Now is early-ish, which allows for anything to go wrong later on down the line. I think that I'm no expert in this, but I believe with these growing here in this garden and my previous experience, I've got about a two-week window of being able to grow them. And the volunteers have arrived.
Yeah.
For the Preston Manor garden volunteers are here. They work really hard at maintaining the walled garden, the beautiful walled garden. They deserve to get all the beer.
Should we go?
Get on and do it. Get on with it.
Well, this is how to pick hops.
Well, you just grab the vine.
Yep.
You take them at the base and then you pop them off.
Okay. Yeah.
They go in like that. Trying to avoid getting loads of leaves in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can get them all off, like that.
In a few.
Ideal.
Yeah.
That's it, really.
Okay.
In the bag.
Are gloves required or just?
Ideally, yeah, because you can get
okay.
it can be quite irritating. The hairs get itchy.
Well, let me get the.
But it's okay for a little while to do it without,
Yeah.
like that. The hops that have been grown individually in independent locations, so there's kind of one or two hops growing in a private garden somewhere. The benefit of those hops has been that I got in touch with local homebrewing group, Homebrew Brighton, and they put the word out on social media and came over and picked, and we're putting them into beers for them to make for their competitions and their kind of experiments and local homebrew projects. And that was so that was really good. And for the hops here, it's more of I was looking more of a kind of a bigger project, working with a bigger brewery to use the hops to make something a bit more substantial, and with something to go out in different pubs, maybe with a name and a clip. There'll be beer made out of hops grown in Brighton, which is essentially the main reason for the project.